Hello guys, Conkeronine here again, and I'm here doing another review. Now, I think it's pretty much no secret at this point that Killer Instinct on Super Nintendo is my all-time favorite game. I love almost everything about it. The characters, the music, the story. Now, like every game, it isn't perfect, but I've had some pretty fond memories of playing this game, and I still play to this thing because it's still a pretty damn good fighting game. Now, as much as I love the first game, I kind of found the second game to be kind of a big disappointment in my opinion. But that's just me. But before I get to the sequel, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Game Boy port of Killer Instinct. So that's what I'm going to be reviewing today, the Game Boy version of Killer Instinct. Let's jump right in. Now, if you haven't seen my review of Killer Instinct on Super Nintendo and don't know what the story of Killer Instinct is, then I'll pretty much tell you the story again. In the distant future, governments have been replaced by mega corporations, and the most powerful and biggest one is the evil mega corporation Ultratech, who hosts and sponsors the whole worldwide Killer Instinct tournament that was originally a normal martial arts tournament, but then slowly it became a tournament where you fight to survive. Ultratech is also using the Killer Instinct tournament to test many of their new technologies and experiments that they have created in their labs. All 8 of the characters from the arcade and SNES version have returned for the Game Boy version as well, such as Jago the Tibetan Warrior Monk Ninja, Fulgore the Cybernetic Soldier, Orchid the Undercover Spy, Chief Thunder the Native American Warrior, Saberwolf who was a man who turned into a werewolf, Spinal, the reanimated skeleton, Glacius, the ice liquid alien from a distant planet, and TJ Combo, the heavyweight boxer with cybernetic implants in his arms. With also the 2-headed, one-eyeball, goat-legged, bat-swinging idol has also returned as well to be the final boss. But sadly, 2 characters had to be left out of the Game Boy version, and that's Sindar and Riptor, which is a darn shame because I love those characters and Sindar is my favorite character. Now, I do hope we see Riptor and Sindar make a return in Season 2 of Killer Instinct 2013, because I really do think that those 2 characters really deserve a comeback. Now, the gameplay is pretty much the same as the arcade and SNES version, but the big difference is, unlike the arcade machine and Super Nintendo controller, you had 6 buttons, free punches and free kicks. But since this is a Game Boy, you only have 2 buttons. So they pretty much took all 3 of the punches and 3 of the kicks and put them in 2 buttons. But it is pretty easy to do combos in this version, pretty easy sometimes. But there is kind of a slight delay in the controls. Say if you're trying to throw Jago's fireball at the end of Kyoken, there is a slight delay when he finally throws it after you were done doing the combination. It's kind of hard to explain, but go play the Super Nintendo version and then play the Game Boy version, then you know exactly what I'm talking about. There's just one tiny 1-second slight of delay once you do the special move. You finally pull off the special move with the combination on the D-pad, then it takes Jago 1 second to actually throw the fireball. And also, the finishing moves like No Mercies and Humiliations have also made a comeback in this game, which is still pretty cool and awesome. Now, since Sindar is sadly not in the Game Boy version, I say the easiest character to start out with is Spinal, because he's got a really good slide, and he's got a long-range weapon. The graphics are pretty damn good for the Game Boy. The characters actually look like the character from the arcade and SNES version. The pictures on the character select screen actually look like the pictures in the arcade version, and the stage backgrounds also look pretty damn good as well. If you have the screen on dark, because if you have the screen on light, then the stage backgrounds don't look as beautiful. But I can understand them adding this feature so it's easier to see what's going on with the characters on screen. The ending pictures are actually the still images from the arcade full motion videos, which is pretty cool and awesome because we didn't really get that in the SNES version of the game. Okay, that's enough of the good stuff, time to get to the problems now. Sometimes it's very difficult to pull off special moves. Yeah, if that 1 second delay of pulling off the special move when you're done doing the combination was enough, sometimes there will be times that I swear I did the combination right, but nothing happened. I didn't throw a fireball or nothing. Nothing happened, even though I swear I did the combination right. The computer, like in the SNES version, can be cheaply difficult sometimes, constantly blocking and doing combo breakers on here. But I think it's much more worse in this version. The computer constantly blocks almost everything after realizing that you're doing a certain move. Now, that's fine and dandy, this happens with all fighting games, but the computer, I swear, blocks way too much in this version. And the computer can get a couple of cheap hits on you, which is totally unfair. Now, idle can be both stupidly easy and cheaply difficult sometimes to beat. Now, this just might be a little nitpick, but I have to say something about this. Do you remember Organ and Spinal Stage, where you can knock them off the building and see them smash into a car or hit a bridge? Yeah, the stage fatalities are not in this version, which is super lame in my opinion. Now, there is probably a reason why they didn't put the stage fatalities in. Probably there wasn't enough room on the cartridge, or they didn't have enough time to put them in. But still, no stage fatalities is kind of lame. There is a secret stage in the Game Boy version, but from what I've heard, you need a Game Shark to access it and see it. And what is the secret stage? It's the street stage! One of my favorite stages. Now, it's pretty freaking awesome to see one of my favorite stages in 8-bit form. But sadly, to this day, there hasn't been any YouTube videos showing the street stage in action, which is a big shame, because I would love to hear what the freeze music sounds like in 8-bit, because this is one of my favorite stages, and it's also one of my favorite soundtracks in Killer Instinct. Final thoughts is that Killer Instinct on Game Boy may not be one of the greatest games in the Game Boy library, but it is a pretty decent game. But due to the lack of the controls not being as good or as responsive on the SNES version, Sindar and Riptor not being in this version, the computer almost blocking almost everything most of the time, and no stage fatalities, the Game Boy version of Killer Instinct is not as good as the SNES version, and especially not as good as the original arcade version. So in my opinion, I give Killer Instinct on the Game Boy a 5 out of 10. With the title, it's okay, but go play the SNES version. Unless you want to get so you can play Killer Instinct on the go. This is Conkeronine signing out. I hope you enjoyed the review, and thank you for watching.